I never thought I'd have a millionaire wrapped around my finger. Not after he ghosted me for months. But when I bumped into him at that charity gala with his mother, everything changed. Turns out Mama's approval meant more to him than his player reputation. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before I dive into how I turned the tables on this man who broke my heart, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss my stories about love, revenge, and everything in between. So picture this. Me, 26 years old, struggling to make rent while working at one of those fancy restaurants downtown. You know the type. White tablecloths, $200 bottles of wine, and customers who spend more on dinner than my monthly grocery budget. I was hustling 6 nights a week, smiling through exhaustion, hoping those tips would finally help me finish my degree. That's when I first saw him. 3-piece suit that screamed custom-made, surrounded by business associates who laughed at his every word. He commanded the entire room without even trying. I'd served plenty of wealthy men before, but something about him was different. The way he actually looked at me when ordering, like I was visible. In an industry where you're treated like furniture, that small gesture stood out. Little did I know this man would turn my world upside down in ways I never imagined. It started innocently enough. He requested my section every time he visited, leaving outrageous tips that had my coworkers buzzing. "He's into you," they'd whisper, but I'd roll my eyes. Men like him didn't seriously date women like me. They played with us. The 3rd week, he finally asked for my number. I declined politely, giving him my practiced, "I don't mix business with pleasure" line. He simply smiled, nodded respectfully, and continued his meal. No tantrum, no persistence, just acceptance. That threw me off completely. The next time he came in, he brought a book I had mentioned liking during small talk, just left it with his bill. No note, no expectations. It was the collector's edition I'd been saving up for. That gesture, it got to me in ways I hadn't expected. After a month of this subtle dance, I finally gave him my number. Our first date wasn't what I anticipated, no flashy restaurants or shows of wealth. Instead, he took me to this hidden jazz club where his college roommate was performing. The place was intimate, soulful, and so far from the pretentious world he usually occupied. We talked for hours that night, about everything, my dreams of opening my own business someday, his complicated relationship with his family's expectations, our shared love of old-school R&B. He listened like someone starving for real conversation. When he drove me home, he didn't even try to come up, just a gentle kiss that left me wanting more. What followed was a whirlwind. Weekend getaways to places I'd only seen on Instagram, surprise lunch deliveries to the restaurant, late-night calls where we'd talk until sunrise. He made me feel special, chosen, different from other women in his life. "You're not impressed by the things that usually work," he told me once. "It's refreshing." Looking back, I should have seen the red flags. How he never posted me on social media. How our dates were always in neighboring cities, never his own. How vague he was about his schedule. But when you're falling, really falling, you convince yourself those flags are just decorations. 3 months into our relationship, I was completely caught up in his world. I'd rearranged shifts to accommodate spontaneous dates, turned down girls' nights for his last-minute invitations, and even started dreaming about a future together. Silly me. The first sign something was wrong came when I surprised him at his office downtown. I'd never been there before. He always insisted on picking me up. But I wanted to bring him lunch after he mentioned a stressful meeting. The receptionist looked at me with confusion when I mentioned his name. "He's been in Miami all week for the conference," she said, but he had told me he was swamped with meetings in town. That night, his Instagram showed him on a yacht with a group of friends, including a woman perched comfortably on his lap. When I confronted him, the excuses came pouring out. "She's just a family friend. You're overreacting. I didn't think you'd understand the business aspect of these trips." He apologized so convincingly, promised to be more transparent, even suggested we take a trip together the following month. Like a fool, I believed him. Then the communication started dwindling. Texts went unanswered for hours, then days. Calls went straight to voicemail. Our plans kept getting rescheduled, then cancelled altogether. When we did meet, he was distracted, constantly checking his phone. The man who once couldn't keep his eyes or hands off me now seemed to be looking everywhere else. The final blow came without warning. I woke up one morning to discover I was blocked on everything: phone, social media, email. No explanation, no closure, just erased from his life like I never existed. Later that week, his credit card payment for a necklace he'd gifted me was reversed. That stung more than the ghosting somehow, like he was reclaiming even the memories. For weeks, I spiraled, checking his social media from friends' phones, driving past places we used to go, composing texts I could never send. The humiliation burned worse than the heartbreak. How could I have been so blind? My roommate finally staged an intervention when she found me crying in the shower at 3 a.m. "He's not worth your tears," she insisted. "Men like him do this all the time. You were just a seasonal girlfriend." 6 months passed. 6 months of healing, therapy, and slowly rebuilding my self-esteem. I'd quit the restaurant job, finally finished my degree, and landed an entry-level position at a marketing firm. Life was moving forward without him, one day at a time. Then came the night that changed everything. My firm had been invited to a charity gala supporting education initiatives in underserved communities. As the newbie, I was assigned to manage our company's donation table. Not glamorous work, but I was just happy to be included. I wore a simple black dress, nothing flashy, just professional enough to blend in with the wealthy crowd while remaining invisible. I was arranging donation cards when I felt someone watching me. Looking up, I locked eyes with her first, a striking older woman with silver locks elegantly styled, wearing a royal blue gown that commanded attention. She smiled warmly at me before I realized who stood beside her. Him. My stomach dropped as recognition flashed across his face, quickly replaced by panic. "You must be from the marketing team," the woman extended her hand. "I'm Elaine Thompson, event chairwoman and founder of the Thompson Foundation." His mother. The resemblance was unmistakable. Those same intense eyes, that same confident posture. Before I could respond, she continued, "This is my son, who apparently has forgotten his manners." The awkward introduction that followed was excruciating. His discomfort was palpable as he mumbled my name, deliberately vague about how we knew each other. But something unexpected happened as his mother and I began talking. We connected instantly. She was passionate about the same community issues I'd written my thesis on. When I mentioned my grandmother's work with literacy programs, her face lit up. "We need more young women like you involved," she insisted, completely ignoring her son's attempts to steer her away. "Are you attending the workshop portion tomorrow? You should join my table." Throughout our conversation, I caught glimpses of his face, a mixture of shock and something else. Fear, perhaps. The powerful, confident man who had once dismissed me so easily now looked absolutely terrified watching his mother and me bond. I learned more about him in 20 minutes with Elaine than I had in our entire relationship. How he'd taken over the family business after his father passed, how she still sat on the board and had final say on major decisions, how desperately he sought her approval. When she excused herself to greet other guests, the tension between us was suffocating. "You look well," he offered lamely. I simply smiled and turned back to my donation cards. For once, I wasn't the one feeling inadequate. The text started the very next morning. Apologies, explanations, excuses. A flood of messages that 6 months ago would have had me running back. Instead, I responded with simple politeness. "Thank you for your apology. I've moved on." His reply came instantly. "Can we meet?" "Just to talk." I declined. 3 days later, a massive flower arrangement arrived at my office. The card simply read, "I was wrong. Please give me a chance to explain." My co-workers were impressed. I was unmoved. The flowers went to the break room for everyone to enjoy. What I didn't expect was the call from his mother. "I hope you don't mind," she began. "I got your number from the event coordinator. I'm putting together a focus group for our new scholarship program, and your perspective would be invaluable. Professional opportunity or deliberate meddling. Either way, I accepted." The focus group turned out to be lunch with just Elaine at her favorite restaurant. She was straightforward from the start. "My son told me everything. I raised him better than that." The disappointment in her voice was something I recognized, the tone my own mother used when I'd truly let her down. "He's never brought a woman to meet me, not once. Now I understand why he kept you hidden. He knew I'd like you more than him." Her laugh was warm and genuine. Over the following weeks, a strange friendship formed between Elaine and me. We shared a passion for education reform, and she actually implemented several of my suggestions in her foundation's programs. She never pressured me about her son, but occasionally dropped hints about his continued inquiries about me. Meanwhile, his pursuit became relentless but respectful. No grand gestures or love-bombing this time, just consistent, patient effort. Coffee invitations I declined, thoughtful messages about articles related to my work. When I finally agreed to meet him, in a public place, during daylight hours, the man sitting across from me was different, humbled. "My mother says you're brilliant," he admitted. "She's right." When I asked why he'd treated me the way he had, his answer surprised me. "Because you scared me. You weren't impressed by anything I thought made me valuable." For the first time, I saw vulnerability beneath his polished exterior. The real shock came when he confessed his mother had threatened to remove him from the company leadership if he didn't grow up and recognize quality when it's staring him in the face. Her words, apparently. The mighty millionaire playboy was being schooled by his mother, and for once in his life, he was actually listening. After months of cautious conversations and careful boundaries, I agreed to give him another chance, but on my terms. This wasn't the same naive girl he'd charmed at the restaurant. I made it clear, I wasn't interested in being someone's secret, his convenient entertainment, or a trophy to be displayed when it suited him. "I want to be seen," I told him during a particularly raw conversation. "In your world, with your friends, as part of your actual life, or not at all." The look on his face was priceless, a mixture of surprise and something like respect. He nodded slowly, understanding dawning that this relationship would be fundamentally different. Our first public appearance together was at a business dinner with his executive team. I watched him introduce me to each person, his hand protectively at the small of my back, pride evident in his voice. These were the same people he'd hidden me from before. The shift in dynamic was intoxicating, not because I craved revenge, but because I was finally being valued openly. Elaine, of course, was thrilled. "He's finally bringing someone worthwhile to family dinners," she remarked during one of our regular lunches. "You should see how he talks about you when you're not around." What began as her meddling had evolved into genuine support for both of us. The most fascinating transformation was in him. The man who once checked his phone constantly during our dates now gave me his undivided attention. The guy who'd made excuses to avoid meeting my friends now suggested double dates. He began asking for my opinion on business decisions, valuing my perspective in ways he never had before. "Do you think this investor is a good fit for us?" he'd ask, sharing details of potential partnerships. "Your instincts about people are better than mine." This admission, that I possessed something he lacked, signaled a profound change in our power dynamic. What truly shocked me was his vulnerability. Late one night, as we lay talking in the darkness, he confessed his greatest fear. Disappointing his mother after his father's death left a legacy he felt inadequate to carry. "She's the strongest person I know," he whispered. "All my life, I've tried to prove I'm worthy." In that moment, I understood the root of his behavior. The Playboy Act was just armor against potential failure. The irony wasn't lost on me. This man who could buy anything, who commanded rooms full of powerful people, who'd once dismissed me so easily, now sought my approval, my insight, my presence in his life with an almost desperate intensity. He'd become, in many ways, dependent on the very woman he'd once thought disposable. But the true revelation wasn't in having power over him. It was in recognizing my own worth and refusing to accept anything less than what I deserved. Looking back now, I barely recognized the woman I was at the beginning of this story. The girl desperate for validation from a man who saw her as temporary has been replaced by someone who knows exactly what she brings to the table. Are we perfect? Far from it. We still argue, still navigate the complexities of coming from different worlds. But the foundation has shifted, built now on mutual respect rather than convenience or superficial attraction. Some might call what happened karma or revenge, but I see it differently. This isn't about having a millionaire wrapped around my finger or becoming someone's weakness. It's about a man learning that real connection requires vulnerability, and a woman discovering she never needed to shrink herself to be loved. The greatest plot twist wasn't him changing for me. It was me changing for myself, and only then finding someone worthy of the woman I'd become. If my story resonated with you today, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means everything to me. Drop a comment below, sharing your own experience with relationships that transformed you. I read every single one. This journey taught me that knowing your worth isn't just a hashtag, it's a daily practice that changes everything. Check out my playlist on boundaries and self-respect linked in the description. Remember, sometimes the people who hurt us come back different, but what matters most is that you come back stronger. Same time next week for another story from my life. Turn on notifications so you don't miss it.